Hello, hello, hello. I know, it's been a long time. And as much as you may have missed me, I'm sure that I have missed you far, far more. Anyhow, that's enough of the pleasantries. I'm sure we're all very happy to be back here. Today I am coming to you from the absolutely sweltering heat of a faraway desert. And I will be making a character, this lizard monster. I found some concept art that I'm, as you know, I'm referencing here. I found this art on, I believe it was a Pinterest, but unfortunately I wasn't able to find any credit to the original artist for this art. If anybody sees this video and happens to know who is responsible for that original art, if you could please let me know. I'd be very grateful. Thank you. Anyway, so as you can see, I'm just building the base shapes. This character I started from just a sphere because I knew it was going to have quite a unique form, so I didn't quite have anything close to that, so I thought it would be best just to start from scratch. And now, as you can see, we've blocked out the arms, and currently in the process of blocking out the legs, extruding those out. He's got a very hunched over posture, and I'm making sure to capture that here. Nosy brush, now adding the claws. 1, 2, 3, 4, and 5. Perfect. Sorry, when I say count like that, it makes it sound like I'm doing it in real time, but I'm not. Of course, this is all pre-recorded. As you can see, it's clearly sped up. My apologies. I'm insulting your intelligence. Of course you know it's sped up before that. You wouldn't assume that I'm doing this all in real time. You're far better than that. Sorry for getting off track again. As you can see, I had to clean up. There were some issues dynameshing. Dynamesh always tends to be one of my least favorite parts of using a ZBrush because it's always so finicky, especially those tight little gaps, like the little crevices and crevasses between the fingers. Always end up having issues with little sticky bits getting connected where you don't want them, you know. Clingy, I like to call it. Clingy topology. It has a nice ring to it, if you ask me. And as you can see, now slowly adding in more detail, you can see the abdominal, the abdominal area and the facial jaw and the muscles on the chest and on the upper arm. And now I feel like it's a good time to start extruding out a second mesh that I'm going to use for his loincloth. You know, maintain this bloke's modesty at least a little bit. As much of a beast he may be, he still can be somewhat a respectable gentleman. Actually, isn't that an interesting thing to think about? You know, we don't know, perhaps in the culture where he comes from, he's actually quite posh. We don't know. Who are we to judge based on our high and sometimes ludicrous standards? We can't say whether or not what he's doing here is, you know, savage or quite distinguished where he's from. We just simply do not know. Well, maybe I would know, because the artist who created this, it comes from my imagination, but, well, you know what they say, never kiss and tell. Besides, after finishing the loincloth, I have gone back to doing more detail. Getting his face right was very important for me because I wanted it to have some semblance of character. I didn't want him to just be a senseless beast, even though he was quite beastly, so it was a thin line to be walking. But, well, that's what I was going for. As you can see, adding some more definition and fibrousness to the muscles. And then his feet. Feet are a very unpopular thing to work on because, well, you can put work into it for not much, because how often are the feet of a character very prevalent? Except, well, depends. That one film director, everyone always talking about how much he loves feet and is always showing off feet in his movies. It might be a bit of a sexual thing for him. I can't remember his name. He did what was the name of the film with Samuel L. Jackson? Pulp Fiction, I believe. Very entertaining film. Very good director. Unfortunately, his name is slipping my tongue at the moment. I feel so embarrassed. As an artist, I should be able to recognize other artists and remember their names. This is terrible. My apologies. Let's move past it. Back to the character here. I haven't been explaining very much what's going on, and I'm sincerely sorry for that. As you can see, again, the dynamesh on the feet this time. Sorry, I got a bit. Sorry for raising my voice. It just really frustrates me. Always having to go in and to delete individual faces and fill in the holes. And sometimes when you fill in the holes, it reconnects the. It's just so much work. Anyway, as you can see, I've just been refining the model, making the shapes look better, adding in more details. Really trying to make sure everything's tip-top, high quality work, because quality is important. I want to make sure it looks good to look at. You know, it's realistic, feels like his body's lived in and used. Adding some wrinkles to the skin. A little bit more character. I love this. It's so satisfying always working on these small little manual details, not using any detailed brushes, alphas or VDMs, but just working straight in there, standard brush, clay build-up, making this finer details. There's something about it, I love it. And pushing around the vertices. As you can see, it's looking like there's veins and fibers in his muscles, making him look really strong and monstrous, but at the same time, giving him character, you know. Maybe not someone you'd have over for tea, but you know, someone maybe you wouldn't specifically cross the street to avoid. As you can see here, I decided to add some veinous shapes that I was going to then use this as a mask later to add this same design in the texturing. Unfortunately, spoilers here, I forgot to do that. And this ended up just being a exercise in futility, we could say. But I'm keeping it in to show that sometimes we start things in the design process and things that don't always make it to the end. Sometimes we decide it doesn't fit our overall design. Sometimes it's simply just, simply we just forget. So my apologies, it's my bad. And now it's time for even more micro details, scales, because I want this character to have a little bit of a reptilian feel to him. As you can see, it's already kind of starting to give off that effect, but I want to really drive that home. So I added these scales, and it's quite satisfying again to work on by masking, by masking out and then extruding or painting on top of that to add the actual depth to the model. Just doing a bit more of that, and then yes, here we are. Next part, I actually now started using some alphas and some VDM brushes to add much more micro fine detail into the model. And this part, I will say actually, there was quite a big gap in between the first set of scales and this. A few months I took off. I unfortunately wasn't able to work. A lot happened in my personal or business life. I had no access to my working setup. Just some more adventures, nothing to worry about. I'm perfectly fine. You know how I live. I live on the edge, dangerously, and sometimes, unfortunately, it can get in the way of my pastimes and doesn't allow me to spend time with all of you, which you know I love doing. As you can see, it's very satisfying to watch this, adding in those details, really bringing the character to life as stuff does. All that fine stuff, and seeing all those cool different brushes and VDMs at work. Here we are, adding in some more finer details. Those menacing claws of his. Yeah. Quite frightening, wouldn't you agree? And now, just finishing up, last little bit of detailing, finishing up on the face. This was really what drove it home, his facial details. Just the last little bit, the last little push, always ends up doing so much. Now that the character himself is finished, his accessories needed to be also, worked on. In the concept art, he has these bandages on his arms and legs, and I thought they looked quite appealing, so I'm copying them here. It's quite tricky to get this kind of bandage effect, I find. It can also be quite expensive, high poly to get the curves. So sometimes it's not worth it. You have to use little tricks to cheat and make the detail that's not really there, but look like it is. It's not something I'm very well practiced with, making bandages on a character, but as you can see, I did quite a decent job, well, if I do say so myself. Setting it up here. Quite technical stuff, but sometimes that can be satisfying when it's all said and done. And after the bases are done, a little bit of refinement was in order. Sorry, it's been a long day. It's just sometimes it's hard to think of things to say in the moment. And of course, I want to keep you all entertained, but sometimes it's better to just let the work speak for itself, you know. And again, as I said before, I love the look as you detail on bandages. I find it so satisfying to watch and to look at, seeing the wrinkles and the creases as they form as you work on cloth. I mean, sorry, not bandages, I said earlier bandages, but even you can see on his loincloth, and then here, just seeing as those lines form, because it's so simplistic, but so effective and beautiful when done well. I was really happy with the way that it looked like the bandages were nicely wrapped around his skin, because I find that can be hard to create that effect of tight cloth on skin to get that stretched look and feel. But like all things, time and practice, and these things naturally they improve. Oh my, sorry, I didn't realize no recording glossed past that so fast. I just quickly added in some teeth and gums in his mouth, just as one solid object, and then now I'm adding in some more accessories. The skulls I did not model myself, I got that model off the internet. Very good model, very congratulations to the artist who made them. And then, as you can see, some more accessories. He has a bear trap he actually wears around his thigh, and then some ropes, which obviously, of course, would be used to hold the skulls in place. My goodness, this is really quite moving fast. I apologize for that. I didn't realize that the pacing was a bit iffy here. But as you now I have a bit of time, I can explain to you how I actually made this ropes. So, as you can see, I actually did a curve along the shape I wanted to fit, and then I actually just used 4 circles with no fill, and then a spin modifier to twist them around each other and give it that rope look, and then making sure both of the origins are in the same point on both the rope and the curve. I can use a curve modifier to then make the rope shape that I have follow the path of the curves that I'm using to make the ropes, and it's actually quite effective, and as you can see, the result already is starting to look quite nice. Very simple, and you can make ropes very fast this way. Next up was retopology. I'm not a big fan of retopology, so I'm quickly glossing over it here, just showing some of the more complex stuff, getting all the individual toes and then connecting the foot to the body. Retopology is one of those things, it's like doing a puzzle. It can be fun sometimes, but of course it's always the same every time. It can get old. It's just, you learn the tricks, seeing where the good topology will meet up, and it's just something to take time and practice, and keep it simple, and you'll improve. Next, onto the texturing and Substance Painter. I decided here to use the procedural power of Substance Painter to its fullest, and automate the process of getting the tops of the scales to be darker, and then the lines in between the scales to, or my apologies, the other way around, the tops of the scales to be brighter, and then the lines and stuff in between the scales to be darker, to really sell the depth of the character, and then some more bleached centers on the scales. Next, the cloth for the loincloth material, quite simple. Some faded bits in the curves, and then some scratches on the details. Just used I believe I used a smart material and mixed that with another material, and then did some manual color painting there, so nothing quite fancy. And then, of course, I just used another simple color layer to make the bone chitinous. I don't know what it would quite be made of, to be honest. But the menacing claws that this character possesses, of course, they need to be made of something different, because I wanted to make it very clear where the finger ends and the claw begins. The teeth, while simple, just using some of the textures or materials already available inside Substance Painter, I feel like ended up looking really good. There was this bone texture which had the dried blood look on it, which I think fit his teeth really well, and then I made his gums dark red to really sell that violent, bloody inside of his mouth. And then, after finishing that, I decided I wanted to make his loincloth a little more visually interesting, so I added an alpha channel, and then did some of this scratch tattered look. Oh, what? What's this? We out of footage? Oh no. It seems that the whole rendering process was not recorded. I'm sincerely sorry for that. But, well, I'll make sure you get what you want. Here's the final result. I'm so sorry that seems like our time was cut short. It's been so long, but I promise I will try and make an effort to be around more, because I'm really enjoying this. I really enjoyed this night. I miss you all so much. Thank you for tuning in, and I'm sorry again. Hope to speak to you all soon. Bye for now.